So as what was said, I started growing cotton under sprinkler irrigation. So I'd like to thank Nuffield Australia, the Cotton Research and Development Corporation, the Nuffield Administration and Cotton Australia. So I've just mixed myself up there. But they are all key and integral. Without industry support, the Nuffield program wouldn't happen, and I'm just so indebted to the Nuffield program that it has happened for me. And by default, that the cotton industry wants to support this program. I'd like to thank the Brazil GFP group. We were a bunch of strangers that got thrown together on a bus, and we became the most fantastic group of mates, and their input through the GFP really accelerated my personal development, and I just wouldn't be the person I am today without them. I'd like to quote Sir Isaac Newton. If you've seen further than others, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. And I really feel that's applicable to me because I've been able to take the opportunities that have come my way and achieve the things that I have because of the sacrifices that my family have made. Particularly my mum and dad, who might have had some similar opportunities but through circumstance weren't able to take them up, and I really feel that I've been able to achieve what I have through standing on their shoulders. I'd also like to thank my brothers, George and Richie, who kept the farm running while I was away, although they commented that there wasn't much of a change in their workload, so I'm a bit worried that I might be voted off the island next, but anyway. And I'd like to thank my lovely wife, Lauren, who was my fiancée when we started the Nuffield journey, and she came travelling with me, and she still decided she wanted to marry me at the end of it, so I'm very fortunate, and her support has been endless, so thank you. So just a quick wrap up of what we are. We're a 7,000 hectare mixed family farm at Trangie in central west New South Wales. We've got about 3,000 hectares of dryland farming, 3,000 hectares of native pasture growing livestock, and about 1,000 hectares of irrigatable area, split roughly 50-50 between sprinkler and furrow irrigation. I farm with my brothers and my parents and 2 to 3 other full-time staff. The catalyst for my Nuffield was the Murray-Darling Basin Plan. Governments seduced irrigators or put in place programs for irrigators to swap in water entitlements for water-saving infrastructure. For a lot of cotton growers in the Macquarie Valley, that was in the form of sprinkler irrigation in lateral moves and centre pivots. The problems started to occur when we combined traditional or normal cotton growing methods with sprinkler irrigation. We found that it was very difficult to wet up the soil profile where the seed was situated, which meant we had to apply excess moisture to get an acceptable plant stand. We also observed a lot of sandblasting, and this really delayed the crop. So in the end result, we applied too much water for a plant stand, which gave us a poor water use efficiency with an average yielding crop. So if these machines weren't going to be a big white elephant, we really needed to change. And I didn't think we'd have to look too far because dryland farmers had been utilising ground cover for a long time to stop water movement, increase infiltration rates, stop airflow around the surface and around the ground surface, sorry. And we also observed ourselves that we planted a little bit of cotton just by mistake in a weedy area of the paddock, and that area had far superior germination, far superior growth rates, and zero sandblasting. So it really, for us, begged the question, can we grow zero till or minimum till type cotton and utilising full ground cover? So off on a Nuffield I went, and one of the most influential places I went to was Lubbock, Texas, where there's about 13,000 pivots covering 1.8 million hectares. I went and visited Ronnie Hopper and his son RN, who were the US Cotton Growers of the Year in 2014, and they'd been growing cotton under sprinkler irrigation for a long time. They were happy to use any sort of ground cover. Last year's crops, and you can see here their previous crop was corn, to provide just a bit of cover to stop water from moving, increase infiltration and stop soil moving in their heavy thunderstorms. They were really happy that they didn't see a need to plant a specific multi-species cover crop. However, they were happy just to use a simple wheat or barley crop and spray it out, or, as I said before, use last year's stubble. I also went to visit Dwayne Beck from the Dakota Lakes Research Farm. Dr. Beck was an amazing man. He was growing 15 tonnes to the hectare of corn using 300 mils of moisture, which I found simply astonishing. But Dr. Beck's catch cry was take the E out of ET, take the evaporation out of evapotranspiration, and he was doing that by ground cover. So the photo here you can see is a wheat crop that's been harvested using a stripper front, leaving the straw nice and long, and then he's direct drilled his next cash crop straight into that stubble. The other photo is a 15-year corn-on-corn trial, and even though rotationally that's not ideal, he was really demonstrating what the soil can look like when it had full ground cover. So I went away from these meetings absolutely convinced that we needed ground cover to be successful growing cotton under sprinkler irrigation. But I had a few worries. How was I going to get a cotton planter through that much stubble and without a lot of hairpinning and poor seed soil contact? And also, was that much ground cover going to cool the soil down and reduce my planting window and reduce my season length? So we went to the Midwest of the USA to visit some corn growers and discovered something called strip tilling. Strip tilling is a relatively new process in Australia, although a few people are starting to pick up on it. The process is it removes trash from the plant line. So the way it works is this front disc here is a gauge wheel and a trash disc, so that cuts through the trash. These next two discs move trash out of the plant line. This third step in the process is a ripping shank, which rips below the plant line and applies fertiliser, particularly phosphate, deep into the profile where cotton scientists are telling us that cotton has been mining phosphate from. The next step is a set of wavy discs which throws dirt back onto the rip line, and the last step is a crumble roller which breaks down any clods. And this is what you can achieve with a strip tiller. It allows you to take say a cereal cover crop and till where you want to till, move the trash out of the way and leave a nice bare plant line for the sun to heat up. Now this is a photo here of we plant our wheat on 330mm row spacings, and that strip tiller is inserted itself between the two wheat rows. So it's done a really effective job of giving us a nice seed bank. Seed bed. And this is what we can achieve, a really nice uniform plant stand, which is really the result of the ground cover. Water is a cotton crop's single biggest input, and it doesn't matter if you own the water yourself or you have to buy it in from other farmers, it still costs you something. So I went to visit Glenn Scher in Texas, who was really focused on delivering water efficiently from the sprinkler to the root zone in the soil. Glenn had found about a $370 to the hectare and about a 10% increase in efficiency by converting from sprinkler irrigation to a bubbler. And there's nothing fancy about what you see behind me. One is a sprinkler and the other one is a sprinkler with a shroud put over it. Glenn explained to me that the reason that a bubbler is more efficient than a sprinkler is because when you use a sprinkler, you evenly wet the whole entire soil profile and you expose the maximum amount of area to evaporation. When you use a bubbler, what happens is the water is put into a more narrow stream, and which makes water penetrate deeper into the soil out of the evaporation zone of the soil, and also leaves a lesser area to the side out of the strip to be evaporated. So this is a really critical point because typically in the Macquarie Valley we apply about 800 mils of irrigation water a year, and if we can get a 10% increase in efficiency, or about 80 mils, that could equate to about $400 to the hectare increase in gross margin. So that is considerable and consistent with what Glenn had found. Another really important aspect to understand growing cotton under sprinkler irrigation is machine capacity. A cotton crop requires about 12 mils per hectare per day in the peak of the summer to meet its demand. And if you account for a couple of mils of losses in that as well, it means you really need to be able to apply 14 mils to the hectare every day. Now, something that really annoys me within the cotton industry is these machines have a real reputation of not being able to keep up with water demand, and it really annoys me because with a little bit of change in management and a different mindset, a 14 mil a day per hectare capacity machine has more than enough ability to grow a 16 bale to the hectare cotton crop. Everywhere I went and every grower I spoke to said that machine maintenance is critical. And this is because it didn't matter how much capacity you had, if your machine broke down, your capacity to irrigate the crop was zero. So this is Bob over here. Bob didn't maintain his machine. Don't be like Bob. Another really important point when growing cotton under sprinkler irrigation is that it's really, their scheduling is much different to furrow irrigation. As most people in the room would know, when you furrow irrigate, it's an all or nothing affair. You either don't apply or you fill the soil profile to saturation. With sprinkler irrigation, you're applying a lot less because of the infiltration rates of the soil. So what's really important to understand here is if a cotton crop's using 15 mils per day during the season, if you apply about 100 mils per furrow irrigation, it's going to be around 7 days before you need to irrigate again. But that same cotton crop using 15 mils under a sprinkler irrigator, you're going to have to be irrigating more like every second day. So that's something that's really important. Growers have moved forward with irrigation scheduling quite a bit, with using capacitance probes and also canopy temperature sensors, something that I haven't included here but it's in my report. So on farm, we bit the bullet in 2014. Mum and Dad were in the States and I rang them up and said, Dad, I want to spray out a wheat crop and strip till some cotton in. And Dad said, strip what? So anyway, we did it. We sprayed a bit of wheat out, strip tilled that next afternoon, and 3 weeks later we were planting a cotton crop, and this is what we got. And this, what I've really used my Nuffield for, was to go away and travel and meet people that had a lot of experience growing crops under sprinkler irrigation and had been strip tilling for a long time. And this is the outcome of that crop. So to give you a bit of perspective, in 2013 we grew a cotton crop using traditional cotton growing methods, or what a furrow irrigated crop would look like. We used about 8 megs to the hectare and it yielded about 12 bales. This cotton crop behind me yielded 16 bales to the hectare with the same amount of water. So it was quite a significant increase for us. Into the future, this is ground prep for this coming crop. We did this process in April and we are hoping to plant the cotton in October if it stops raining. For the moment, we're going to try and retain a previous year's cereal stubble, the long fallow that through to accumulate some moisture. However, we're also this year, by a bit of mistake, going to spray out a wheat crop and plant directly into it just because of how wet the winter's been. We haven't been able to get on to spray the crop out yet. So we're not sure exactly what is going to be the best moving forward, but a few years playing with it, we'll be able to coax that out. And this is something I'm excited about as well. This could be the future. These are pivot irrigators towing drip line, or drip irrigation basically, which means that again we're trying to really narrow up where we're applying moisture to get it deeper into the profile. This was happening in West Texas and also in Arizona at the Arid Land Research Centre, but it's really early days, so I'm looking forward to seeing how that progresses. So key findings for the industry: it is possible to grow a high yielding, highly water efficient cotton crop under sprinkler irrigation. However, ground cover is critical to this. Strip tilling can alleviate a lot of those problems with ground cover, and that's something that really should be considered by growers. Sprinkler selection is really critical, with a 10% increase in efficiency up for grabs. And one interesting point I will add to that is that the cost of the sprinklers on a lateral move machine is about 7% of the overall capital cost, yet they account for about 70% of the machine's performance. So you don't have to spend much money to get a really big increase in efficiency. Machine capacity must match crop intensity, and maintenance is critical. Thank you.